45 years old. No, the water you see behind me hasn't rushed into Richmond, Virginia. I'm at my favorite vacationing spot in OBX, Nags Head, North Carolina. I've come here for many years. In fact, we came here, my wife and I, on our honeymoon 18 years ago. But even though we do return when we can, to be honest with you, I've reached a point where I am a little embarrassed to come because I can't go out on the beach and go do things out on the boat, or don't feel comfortable on a jet ski and stuff wearing swim trunks and no shirt, primarily because I've gained so much weight. I thought of myself as a little bit heavy when I was a kid, but I started to lose weight and really get into shape, and this maintained pretty well until I was about 18 or 19 years old, and I put on some weight, and to be exact, I went up to 248 pounds. But over the course of a couple of years, after I found out I was diabetic and got under the care of a doctor, I was able to start losing some weight and lost all my weight back down to 178 pounds, which I kept off for about 10 years or so. But about 10 years ago, I started putting on weight again when they changed some medications with my doctor. And to be honest with you, I kind of lost the ability to sometimes control what I eat, and sometimes it has to do with maybe how I feel about myself. So I not only put on all that weight that I had lost previously 68 pounds, but I not only lost all that, but I gained all that, but plus some. So now I am over 280 pounds, and even on a frame of 6'2", that's still way, way, way too big. I think, over my life, I tend to have a closet full of black clothes, maybe for more than one reason, but I feel like maybe it helps me look slimmer. But when you have a 44-inch waist and weigh 280 plus pounds, clothes really don't have much effect as far as the way you feel. I've got to the point where I've increased so much in my girth that I've got to the point where it's difficult to tie my shoes and go up and down flights of stairs and things like that. And I know being diabetic has had a negative effect on my health. So I had a good friend of mine that decided to try out for The Biggest Loser, and she mentioned it to me, and it's really funny because I never watched the show. I caught a few pieces of season 7 and season 8, and I thought, man, it was really amazing that those people were able to transform themselves in such a short period of time. And it wasn't just about losing the weight, it was also about the way things affected their life, about the way they felt about themselves, the way they looked at themselves, because I realized I had even reached a point where when I had lost weight many, many years ago, even though I'd gone down to 178 pounds at 6'2", 2 inches tall, I still felt like I maybe was fat. Even when my wife said she could see all my ribs, and my mom could see all the veins in my arms, and my face was very thin, somehow psychologically, I still thought of myself as a fat guy, and I still thought of myself as being overweight. And now that I'm more overweight than I've ever been, I think I must have been crazy back then, because now I know I really am very overweight and really need help. For some reason, even though I know the negative effects that being overweight can do, the effect it can have on my body, particularly being diabetic, with kidney issues and eye issues and heart issues, to be honest, I'm not sure what it has taken motivation-wise to hold me back at this point from losing the weight. There have been times where I've tried a few things and lost 10 pounds and then just found out that I just couldn't push myself, or maybe thought I made success and just kind of stopped there. So I'm really looking forward to getting on with The Biggest Loser and having a chance, an opportunity to change the things in my life and lose the weight and change perspective about myself, but also about my feelings about how I look at myself and maybe other people look at me as well. Alright, so now we're on the way back home, but it's something that people who are in shape or much thinner may not pay attention to simple little things that can become problematic to somebody that's overweight. So one of the things that people that are overweight sometimes use is humor, and sometimes it's self-deprecating because, you know, it's easier to make fun of yourself than hear somebody else making fun of you. So one of the things I refer to sometimes is something that really annoys me a lot, is something I call my tactical shelf, right, which is my stomach sitting way out like that. And no, that's not me pushing my stomach out. That's exactly how my stomach sits every day. So if something happens, I drive down the road and I'm drinking a cup of coffee, or I decide to snack on a long trip or something like that, this is a place that my wife hates to see stuff fall. But while we all might end up dropping crumbs and dropping things on the ground or in our laps, it doesn't make it that far from me. It just all ends up all over my shirt. And it gets to the point that I a lot of times just wear plain dark t-shirts, just because I know if I go out to eat, or if I'm driving down the road and I have a cup of coffee or have a drink or something and I hit a bump or anything spills at all, where does it end? Right here in my belly. Not in my lap, but right here in my belly. It doesn't even make it that far. So this is something that, being overweight, a lot of times other people who aren't overweight may not think about, but you know, the way your seatbelt fits in the car, the way the seatbelt fits in an airplane. You know, right now, my wife and I, you know, get a chance to travel every once in a while, and in particular, we train in martial arts, and we've been, I've been training in martial arts for over 20 years, or over 30 years, I'm sorry. My wife has been training me the last 10, and we've even made a couple of trips to Japan. But in the last few years, I've gotten so big that, you know, in a regular commercial size airliner, I can barely wear the seatbelt. And you know, when you fly to Japan, you're already in a position where you're going to sit on the plane for 14 hours from the East Coast to Japan, and you know, with a seatbelt that you can barely wrap around you, you know, packed in that tight little seat. And I can remember years ago, back in my 20s, when I flew out to California a few times, and only weighed 178 pounds, I didn't think anything about being in the airplane and flying. But you know, now as I put on all this weight, you know, every time I think about traveling, it's not only the airliner and being on the flight to go over there and being restricted in the seat, but once you get there, you travel a lot of public transportation, and you have to walk a lot where you go. And when we're with our group of friends, you know, we're running through the train station, exchanging trains. But you know, at my size, I'm always the last one in the line, you know, and I'm always, you know, trying to make it through the crowds, and you know, my friends are running to the next train, and I'm always the guy that's the furthest behind. You always have that fear that they're going to get on the train and I'll end up being left behind and have to figure out my way, you know, around. So, you know, being overweight, you know, really affects things that, you know, going out and having fun, but even everyday things that when you think about traveling someplace, it's not so much the travel that is bad enough, but actually when you get there, just the ability to be able to get around. You know, I'm at the point now that I feel like with the weight, you know, it just makes everything ache more. So when I try to drive places, you know, I end up with a lot of like joint pain, particularly in my lower back, obviously because my middle is so big and pulling forward so much from the weight, but also my knees and stuff as I've gotten, you know, more bloated everywhere, it seems. You know, I've started to have more and more things affected. And like I said, I mean, I know inside me it's not good for my health, but you know, I just feel like I really need an outside push, you know, even more to try to make things healthier, you know, for myself. As I've gotten older and been diabetic longer and been putting on weight, you know, my joints ache. It's difficult to travel and get around, but it's also thrown, you know, other health issues in, dealing with things like my kidney issues, dealing things with eye surgery that I've had to have due to ruptured blood vessels in my eyes, you know, my thyroid. You know, all these things have been because my diabetes has not been under the control that it should be. And a lot of that is due to, I feel like not enough exercise, not eating the right things, and just not taking care of myself. And like I said, I know I've done it before and took care of myself for a long time, but some things happen where I just feel like I'm really in the position that I really need the help of professionals like that are on the show, The Biggest Loser, to really push myself to the next level. So here you are, just a few days left before the application deadline, and I feel like this may be a good example of some things that happened in my life through procrastination. I put off losing weight, I put off getting in shape, I put off eating right, I put off doing the things that I need to do in my life. Maybe because I'm afraid of the success, maybe it's because I'm afraid of the failure. I'm not really sure, but I really feel inside that this is really a time for the change. So I feel like even though I've procrastinated and felt like I've waited the last minute, in the back of my mind, I see myself as successful. I see myself as doing the right things and doing the things I need to do to get myself in shape and lose the weight. But with that being said, I really do feel like I need the help. I feel like I need the help and the push of the people on the show, and I think by being surrounded with other people that all have the same goal to try to lose weight and to try to change their lives and be healthy, that I feel like this is a really good reason to move forward and to be part of the show. So I really look forward to hearing from you and being accepted to the latest edition of The Biggest Loser.
So here we are at my favorite place. This is one of my other jobs. During the day I'm a mechanic, but at night I teach martial arts. So here we are in our dojo, our martial arts school, and as much of a job as it is coming in every night, 4 nights a week coming here to teach, it's something that really the passion that I have in my life outside of my family. This is probably the single most important thing in my life is training in martial arts. So much so that we've really spent time, money, and effort to travel as far away as Japan several times to practice martial arts and train in martial arts and upgrade our teaching. So part of the problem has been in the past 10 years, as I put on this weight, it's really become a big burden. It's like carrying around a big backpack on all the time, except it's not just on my back, it's also on my front. And part of the martial arts that we do involve us rolling around and jumping and leaping and things like that. And what has happened is over time, as I've put this extra weight on the middle, it has made that much harder to do. It's made it much more difficult to do some of the things that are really considered basics in our training. So as we train, a lot of times we set goals for ourselves along the way, but not just here in the dojo, but also personal goals. And so over the past couple of years, I've tried to set up several goals for myself, and one of the goals that I have set up has been to try to get in much better shape so I can get back in the shape that I used to be in, that I was 10, 15 years ago. And I want to set a good example for my students, and especially the new people coming in and training with us. And I feel like I can raise the energy level up in the class and excite the students, get them excited about stuff when they can see the transformation that's taken place in the 12-week period of being on The Biggest Loser. I really feel like the expertise from the trainers on the show, the nutritionists on the show, and the doctors on the show can really allow a full transformation to take place in just a short time period that I feel can really energize not only myself, but energize the class. So for me, this is really a big step for me to step forward and try to do what I can to be on the next episode of The Biggest Loser.